Hola, Chads. I've got a new mic and we're doing a little different video today. We're switching gears, we're doing a little educational video today, and it's going to be about nutrition and what we eat before and after training, okay? This way you don't have the bubbly guts and you're not focused on trying not to shit your pants during practice, and you can actually focus on the jiu-jitsu and trying to get better at jiu-jitsu, okay? We've all been there, we've had a crap ton, we've overindulged before practice, and then we get to practice, and, we're like, I gotta tighten my sphincter the entire practice, okay? We're letting out some hellacious farts. Our training partners are like, yo, what the heck? I remember one time I overindulged before practice and had the bubbly guts, and I got a guy in a rear triangle, and I couldn't help myself. I got a little too horned up, and I farted on the back of his neck, and that wasn't cool. He was not happy with me, and he shouldn't have been, honestly. So we're going to prevent that, okay? We're going to prevent having to tighten our sphincters, and we're going to work on tightening our nutrition up so we can focus on jiu-jitsu. So for this example, we're going to say we work, and most of us train in the evening after work, okay? And we're going to say, you have a regular 9 to 5 and you get off at 5, and we'll say training's at like 6 or 6:30 or something like that. So that gives us like an hour and a half before we get to training, okay? Which is not a whole lot of time, not time for a huge meal, okay? So we're just going to give you a little game plan for that, all right? We don't want to eat a whole bunch of fat or a whole bunch of fiber before training, okay? That takes a while to digest, and it's not an energy source we can readily use quickly in training. So we're going to try to stay away from fiber and fats. Fiber and fats just will kind of sit in your stomach and have the blood rush all to your stomach and not throughout your body, as you need to utilize it as you're doing jiu-jitsu, okay? And jiu-jitsu, it requires a lot of anaerobic intervals, okay? And so that means it requires a lot of musculature endurance, a lot of muscular output. And so the primary fuel source for that is glycogen in our muscles. So we really need is carbs, and not just any carbs. We want some fast acting ones, okay? And that is like the stuff that gets a bad rap in the media and amongst health gurus, because people overindulge in this and don't eat it at the right time. But when you eat it at the right time and you eat the right amount of it, it is good and can be properly used during training, okay, and help you perform better on the mats, okay? These fast-acting carbohydrates, these high glycemic carbohydrates, will spike your blood sugar and allow your muscles to use that energy during training, and it won't, just sit in your stomach. You'll be able to utilize it. And so some examples of this would be like white rice, goldfish, fruit snacks, pretzels, stuff that doesn't have a lot of fiber but high in carbohydrates, honey, white bagels, stuff like that. And so, you want a little bit of that before training. Rice Krispie treats, that's a famous one amongst bodybuilders. They like to eat that before they go to the gym. That way their muscles can utilize it and they get a sick pump, okay? Who doesn't enjoy a sick pump? Maybe you'll get one during jiu-jitsu now that you know how to properly eat before training. So we want some of that in our system. And, I would recommend a little bit of protein. Not a whole lot, because if you eat a whole lot of protein, that'll just tend to sit in your stomach and be hard to digest. But we want a little bit to kind of keep us satiated and not starving during training, and allow us to kind of focus during training and, hold us over until we can have a meal after training. So I'd say a little bit of protein's not bad, about 10 to 20 grams, along with our carbohydrates beforehand, okay? And if you're not really into you want more of a whole foods approach, you can eat more, high glycemic fruits like, pineapple's a good one. Blueberries are pretty low, pretty easy on the stomach. Mangoes, stuff like that would be what I would recommend. We want a lot of bang for our buck, though, and I would, say the more of the artificial stuff, like sports drinks, would maybe be better. But anyway, yeah, so we don't want to overload the fiber or the fats, and we don't want to do too much protein, but maybe a little bit just to hold us over until after training, all right? And so that'll keep you energized for training, allow you to give you some fuel sources and not give you the bubbly guts, all right? And so let's say now 6:30 to like 8:30 is training, all right, and then we drive home, shower, and it's like 9:15 before we get to eat dinner, all right. And so we don't want to eat like a huge meal before we go to bed, okay. Let's say you got to go to bed at like 10:30 and wake up at like 6 or 7 to go to work the next day. You don't want to be eating a humongous meal because that'll take away from your sleep, which is a huge recovery tool. But you do need to eat something in order to recover from your training. You can't just not eat anything. And so, this is here you can include a little bit more fats and a little bit more fiber, but not like you still don't want to overdo it. We really want to front load these nutrients throughout the day. In the morning, at lunch, we really want to front load more of our fiber and more of our healthy fats during that time. But we still include some after training, After training, you still want a good amount of protein, 20 to 30 grams. And then this is where we can include our like whole grain carbohydrates, our low glycemic carbs like sweet potatoes, brown rice, quinoa, whole grain bread, whole grain pasta, stuff like that. It would be perfectly fine after training. And this shouldn't be a big meal. It should be kind of a smaller one. You include a little bit of healthy fats, but again, not too much. Maybe some olive oil you cook your chicken with. Maybe some half avocado in there, stuff like that. Just some low healthy fats, but not too many before you go to bed, because that can cause some indigestion and really affect your sleep, which we don't really want to affect if we are natural athletes and not blasting gear. And as far as protein, we want like lean sources, a lean cut of steak, obviously the classic grilled chicken, lean cuts of fish, even like, if you wanted to get a little 2-for-1, salmon, you get your healthy fats and your lean protein, boom, 2-for-1. But yeah, stuff like that, it'd be really good. Lean ground beef, lean ground turkey. But yeah, so that's how I would probably fuel afterwards, And obviously, of course, I haven't included it all in here, but hydration is super important. So if you can, try to weigh yourself before and after training. And, how many pounds you lost is water weight. And so for every pound of fluid you lost during practice, you need to get at least 16 ounces of water for that pound of fluid. And 16 ounces is a pound. So pound for pound that's a good way to remember it. And most time, 16 to 24 ounces, 24 being the higher up, but at least 16 ounces per pound lost. So yeah. But yeah, your hydration, your water should be high intake throughout the day. And another thing I mentioned too is getting protein. You can have like a protein shake beforehand that's got a little bit of protein and maybe a protein bar. But you really got to be mindful of these protein bars and these protein shakes, because they like include a lot of what are called sugar alcohols, and that can really do a number on your stomach and can really upset your stomach. Or a lot of them include like filler products too, and that can really upset your stomach before training. So I would play around with different types of protein powders, different types of protein bars, see which ones you like best. But yeah, you try to stay away from, I know Quest has like a lot of sugar alcohols, and a lot of other ones have a lot of sugar alcohols that tend to upset stomachs. And I'm a big fan of diet soda and zero sugar soda, but I would also try to stay away from that before training, because that carbonation and again sugar alcohols tend to upset your stomach and kind of make you feel bloated and not really good before training. So I try to stick with like water or an electrolyte beverage before training as well. But yeah, obviously nutrition is very specific to each person, and so you need everybody's calorie intake is different based on your activity, your size, your gender, and so obviously you got to take that into account. But this is just like a basic guideline of like where to go if you have like no clue about nutrition, or where to start, or if you're just having a really tough time fueling your training at the end of the night and having a tough time sleeping at night. So I hope this was helpful in some way. If you got any questions, ask them down below. If you'd like to see more videos like this, I'm I think I would definitely love to do more videos like this. I like talking about nutrition and how to fuel your body before, especially competition and before training, and just in general as an athlete. That's something I've done a lot of research on, and I've taken a couple courses in college on, and done a couple courses on by myself. And I remember at Purdue we had a registered dietitian, and she taught us so much, and I'm very thankful for that. So a lot of what I'm telling you is from her, a D1 sports dietitian, and she gave us a lot of golden nuggets. So yeah, I'll talk to you Chads later. See ya.